just remember those nights? Now do you remember the times? Remember the nights? Na, 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 na. When you remember those nights? Na, 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 na. Remember those nights? Do you remember those nights? Na, oh yeah.
Right, one thing I want to talk about is compatriots, DJs, other DJs.
Yes.
So all of them, I say just about all of them, and MCs have become really good friends over the years. I guess the first one really was probably Slipmatt, wasn't it? I guess.
I think it was Slipmatt and Dougal, because don't forget Dougal was coming down because he ended up going out with Jenna.
Yeah, but was that not slightly after? So Slipmatt, obviously, we knew
You're right, because of
Sense of Summer
Yes.
stuff. So, excuse me. So when we was at Night Force, we then started working with Matt on the Universal label and become good mates with Matt. And I suppose if you're going to become good mates with anyone, it's going to be the King Dingaling.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, I remember the first time we drove down to his studio because he was mixing down or mastering one of our tracks.
Yeah.
And we met him on a roundabout somewhere near Harlow or somewhere.
As you do.
As you
Yeah.
do. And I just couldn't believe what we were doing. I just remember we were following his car, taking us to his studio, and I was just sat in the studio. I probably didn't even say a word, to be honest. I was just in awe, just sat there thinking, this is absolutely bonkers that we're in a room with Slipmatt.
It is weird, isn't it? And then, you just become mates, and it's
Yeah.
Matt Ski,
Yeah.
Uncle Matt,
Uncle
or
Matt, yeah.
whatever, and I don't speak to Matt as often now, but when you do, it's just like speaking to an old mate.
Of course it is,
You know,
yeah.
you just-
I mean, we all share that. We all share the same thing, don't we, from those days?
Yeah. But he was always the Godfather, and still is the Godfather, and always will be the Godfather. But you mentioned Dougal, and Dougal helped us out massively
Yeah.
in those early days.
Yeah.
Didn't have to at all, but he got us a lot of gigs.
Yes, he did. And he played everything.
He played
So he
everything.
pushed everything, didn't he?
Yeah.
I don't think we needed to ask him to play it, mind you, but he definitely played it.
Yeah, well, it's different when you give something to Hicksy and like 6 weeks later, have you been playing that track? What track?
Yeah.
Oh, you know, the one I gave you 6 weeks ago. Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But obviously with Dukes, and again, still great mates. I know you still work with him a lot, don't you?
Yeah.
But Hicksy as well.
Of course.
I guess it's hard to say we're closest with, but we've always been really close with Hicks.
Yeah.
I mean, the holiday to Tenerife in '97 with Kim and Kate. I mean, that was it's just some kind of ridiculous in-betweeners kind of
That
mad
was-
moment.
That
wasn't
was
it?
a mad moment. Even that's got a video somewhere of that. I don't know
I
where
did,
that
yeah,
is.
I did video
Yeah.
most of that. I don't know why I used to video everything. Maybe I thought it was a good idea that in 25 years we might need to get it all out to look at it again. But
Unless you wanted to win that 250 quid from You've Been Framed,
You've
just in
Been
case something
Framed,
went wrong.
I mean, I remember Hicksy had his accident before we went on that holiday, and he was almost at one point he wasn't going to go because then he broke his neck or something.
I think he had a jet ski accident, didn't he?
It was a jet ski accident.
Yeah, I think so.
And he wasn't in a great way, and he's like, "Oh, mate," he goes, "I don't know if I'm going to make it. But if I do come, I'm just going to have to be really careful, and I'll just take it easy." And I remember getting there, and within the first 35 seconds, he somersaulted into the bar.
I remember it absolutely clearly.
But what people won't know, or some people will, but most won't, is that for years and years and years, we've called each other Rude Boo.
Yeah.
And do you remember where that comes from?
Well, 100%. I mean, first and foremost, obviously, Junior used to call us Rude Boy, didn't
Rude
he?
Boy, yeah.
Everything was Rude Boy, Stylesy, Rude Boy, 4C. So it would be Rude Boy initially.
Yeah.
And then I remember Hicksy on one night, this is back when he used to drink, he he wanted to go out, didn't he?
This was on holiday.
This is on holiday.
Yeah.
So you and I had stayed back, I think, or we'd all been out for a drink or a meal or something. But I'm pretty sure Hicksy wanted to go out on his own, didn't he? Didn't he want to go downtown?
Well, yeah, he wanted. So we was staying in Adeki.
Right.
And Adeki was not built up as it is now. It's kind of a small area, and there was kind of a bar and a couple of restaurants where we were, and we'd been out for dinner.
Yeah.
But he decided that he wanted to go down to Playa.
Yeah. And he used to call it the town, didn't he? I
And
want
he
to go
just
downtown.
down to the town, yeah. So he wanted to go down to the strip down Playa. I'll let you carry on from there.
And then we were asleep. I'm pretty sure we were in bed asleep. And
Well, I was sleeping on the sofa, so
yeah. So I remember hearing just some noises coming from, and we were quite high up. We were in the hotel, balcony was quite high up. And then I remember coming into the lounge, and we went out on the balcony, looked down, and Hicksy's all the way down there with like a cigarette in his mouth and a whiskey or whatever he was drinking. Famous Grouse, that's what he was drinking. Spilling it all over the place, and he's going, "Rude boo, rude boo." It was that smashed, and then it came from there. So from that day onwards is when it changed from rude boy to rude boo.
Rude boo, and because he was actually, if you remember, there was like a bowls green, right below the window below the balcony, and he was stood in the middle of the bowls green, "Oh, boo!" Yeah. But that's kind of manifested into, because Breezy got on the rude boos, didn't he? Yeah. And then it just kind of ended up being your boob. Yeah,
it's just a friendly term.
It's a friendly term between mates. But we've always had some great laughs, and we mentioned obviously the Vegas trip with Hicks. Actually, I did a Japan trip with Hicks. It's just amazing memories that they're all locked away up there, but hopefully, fingers crossed, unlike yourself, I won't forget them. So one of the things that we did do on a regular basis, which again we touched on, was in those early days going to JTS to cut dub plates in, God, where was JTS? That was London.
London.
It was in London.
It was inside the M25.
It was inside the M25, yeah.
Oh, it's in Hackney, wasn't it?
It's in Hackney, yeah.
There you go.
It's Hackney area.
Give me a little while, and I'll always recall it.
So it's in Hackney, and basically on a Thursday, it'd be arranged, not necessarily every week, but every couple of weeks, wasn't it? And we'd go down and see Fresh Plate. Yeah. So Fresh Plate, the sound engineer was Freddie Fresh Plate, as he called himself, I think. Yeah. Freddie used to love, on a Thursday afternoon, a nice pack of Stellas to drink whilst he was cutting the plates. And all the boys would just kind of congregate, and we'd sit and chat and just have a catch up and just swap tunes. Tracks. Because I think the reason we had to make it every 2 weeks is we couldn't make more tunes in 2 weeks, so we had to wait till longer than that.
But it would be, I mean, what a way of getting all of the freshest music from the biggest producers at the time, by rocking up down there with some of your own tunes, and then getting Slipmat's first SMDs or something, whatever we were getting at the time, on a dub plate, and then Dougal coming in with Feel Real Free on a dub, and you'd get out of there on a Thursday night and you'd have the hottest tracks.
One of the funniest things is, as well, you could gauge if someone liked a tune, because there may be, I don't know, 7 or 8 of you sort of sat in the room, and then Fred would put the DAT in and play the DAT, and then he'll go, right, who's having it? And then whoever wants it puts their hand up. Yeah. But those dub plates in those days weren't cheap.
They weren't cheap.
It's 30 quid for a 10.
For a 10, yeah.
And 50 quid for a 12-inch.
Yeah.
So if someone went, I'll have it on a 12, you knew it was good. Yeah. Because they were spending that 50 notes on your tune.
But generally it was 10 inches, wasn't it, in the yellow sleeve?
Junior. Yeah, it was generally a 10-inch. I think there was one or two people that always get 12-inch ones.
Yeah, funnily enough, because I've still got them now, I've got Hopscotch Steam Train, which is obviously Dougal. I've got that on a 12. Have It All, Triple J, that's on a 12. But the majority of them
do you know what I got sent yesterday on socials, or someone posted it up on socials, was someone was selling Sunshine dub plate.
Right, our one.
Right. Was selling the Sunshine dub plate for 250 quid.
No way.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I'll have to have a look in a minute. I'm sure it's your handwriting on it.
I'd buy it back myself.
I don't know. I'll have to double check. But I was thinking, who's got that?
Yeah. How did that get out?
How did that get out? Because I don't remember.
I mean, we would have both had one because I'm pretty sure, didn't we have? Weren't we doing them doubles? Weren't you getting one and I was getting one, or were we just going
possibly.
with one?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
I'm pretty sure we did double up because there was a few occasions where you would go off and do gigs and I would do gigs, so we'd need both.
And actually, funnily enough, I know I digress from what we're meant to be talking about, but that's another track, Sunshine, which obviously has never come out and only ever been on dub plate.
Yeah.
Which was never right, because the kick and the bass on there, if we look at that now, would never have done that again.
Yeah.
However, people seem to like it. So I'm going to nudge you up for a little remix of that at some point. We need to do something with that because that vocal is too strong, I think, not to do something with.
We still got the original vocal.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Still got that touch. Well, I obviously lifted it, didn't I? And I redid it and got Andrea Britton to vocal it, didn't I? That came out on the album.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
No, I was away that day. I don't know. I was on the golf course.
How dare you?
Not sure. Not sure. I don't remember that.
How dare you?
We'll discuss that one after.
We'll discuss that one, yeah. Don't worry, you got your publishing out of it.
So, Ramos Supreme and Marley, we've obviously mentioned the trip to Australia.
Yep.
But all three of them absolutely loved to pieces,
Yep.
not just for that trip, but because of I mean, I know Marley wasn't particularly involved in making the tracks, but the early Ramos Supreme stuff was different class.
Oh my gosh. And again, that was music that was part of our sets, my set as a resident down at Oscars before I'd even met them.
Yeah.
So, and then again, you find yourself touring with them and playing before or after them at certain shows. They're the real special moments for me, is when out of all of my peers, our peers, is playing all of their music, their early stuff, before we got to be with them, alongside them. That's the most special thing for me.
I think, the journey and Gotta Believe, I still think are two of the greatest hardcore tracks.
100%. So we have to give a shout out to Sunset Regime.
Of course, Mr. Regime has got to get a mention. But I recall as well, whenever, and I'm sure this came about when we was doing Cutting Deep, we're like, what kind of direction? Journey. We're going to go down the Journey direction. Yeah. So just kind of get lost in the music, kind of feel to it. Yep. And then you'd always hark back to that track, want to kind of evoke those emotions in this track, because I just think it's second to none. That
it's absolute quality.
And still now, if I play it out, and literally just
you can get lost. You can get lost in it.
Just get
and
lost
again,
in
once
it,
again, the production on it, so good for back then.
Yeah,
with the limited tools we had and everyone had back then, the production on these tunes is just phenomenal.
And actually, if you think about it, on Gotta Believe, that vocal of Donna's on there. It was Donna the song, Gotta Believe, wasn't it?
Yeah. Donna Gracie, was it?
Donna Gracie, yeah. That vocal is just superb. I mean, not necessarily just the singing, but the actual lyrics as well. Yeah. It's just amazing. Yeah. For a hardcore record around about that time, it was different class.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Excuse me. Let's have a little chat about, before the last few, the MCs. So, obviously, we've had a little chat about Charlie. Everyone knows and loves Charlie. But WizKid and Storm, there's a whole ream of MCs we could mention. But WizKid and Storm, I guess, are the two that work with most of all over the years.
Yeah.
I just remember Carl coming through, and when he was like doing loads of scratching, I used to love listening to Carl in those early days.
Well, absolute quality, because no one else was doing it like him at that point.
No, it was amazing. And I remember I was, when we used to have journeys on, go on journeys, I always just go, stick Storm on, because I would listen to Storm in the car.
Well, also those boys they took the MCing style to a different place, didn't they? Because prior to that, most of the MCs were more of the hype men. So it was more just being hype men during the set, enhancing the set. And then WizKid and Storm obviously had bars, didn't they? Yep. And had lots of sayings as well, and like hooks that went in, and it did take things to a different level.
Yeah, very much. And I mean, Gordon, WizKid have just great MC, but completely different style.
Yeah. But actually, it's funny because if you were talking earlier about the the guys from Sheffield and the uprising situation. And I've got a feeling, Carl could correct me, Storm could correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got a feeling that's the area that is where he started, wasn't it? Like Pleasure Dome and all of those sorts of
I'm
areas.
sure it probably was. Yeah.
And so where the MC was, as big or bigger than the DJ, like what you were saying before, which is a similar thing with Storm and WizKid, because if you had Storm or WizKid on your set at that time, it was a real lift as a DJ, because they were a real focal point.
Yeah. But I remember, just from Raven days, when Cy was with Scratchmaster Techno. Is that right?
Yeah,
I used to love listening to those sets, and obviously Cole was working with Cy and doing a similar kind of thing, slightly different style, I guess. But that kind of really added completely different dimension of what was both weird. Obviously, Cy would be scratching, and then Carl would be scratching.
Yeah.
When they used to work that off back to back, it was just fantastic.
That was special.
And that's more like a PA, I suppose, in the end, really, wasn't it? Almost. And then any other MCs you can think of? There's lots of MCs.
I know we mentioned Marley, but Marley was a legend for me as well.
He's just such a good bloke, though, isn't
Yeah.
he?
He's an all-round top dog.
He's an all-round top dog. But there's lots of little mentions. Always like Watsy's a great guy. God, think of some MCs. There's got to be some other MCs worth a mention.
Don't put me on the spot, Paul.
Oh, Stelzy. Well, there's one that I know that definitely we can finish off the MC section with a mention, and that's Junior again, because I think, for me, undoubtedly, I mean, I still miss him today, and I love having, the likes of Gordon on a set or Charlie on a set, but to have Junior next to you, and you never quite knew what direction he was going to go in with anything, and I think that was half the fun.
It was just unpredictable.
It was unpredictable.
He was unpredictable on stage and off stage, wasn't he? But that was him. That was part of his charm.
But the perfect to kind of round that bit up about the MCs. The perfect thing is, and we was talking about the Yorkshire MCs and it being about the Yorkshire MCs, is 26 years later, no one's talking about that nightlife set because of the tracks we played. They're talking about the 2 minutes of Junior MCing.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that gets the memory.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that kind of says everything about him, because I listened to it the other day, and I was trying to play it to someone else, and I said, right, if you put it on, I can't remember, about 37 minutes or whatever it was, and then I was listening to it, I go, actually no, it's 39 minutes, because he starts off MCing and then he stops, and then when he hits the groove, and that's it, and then because everything's bang on the beat,
Yeah.
and he's off,
Yeah.
and it's just like,
He'd been desperate to unleash that, hadn't he?
just
But again, though, that
genius.
was another thing with Jay, is that when he was on set, he wouldn't just do his lyrics that he knew and would do at each gig. He would literally just
Make it up.
He'd spit on the spot, wouldn't he?
Spit bars on the spot, yeah. I mean, that's the genius thing about it.
Yeah.
So I'm probably sure, I might be wrong, I'm sure he may have got the, didn't he do an HMP RIP thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure he must have been dying to say that line, but then after that, it'll be kind of freestyle.
Yeah.
And that's the mad thing about it. And that's why I guess sometimes he'll start, and then if the rhythm's not there, he'll stop. But eventually when he gets a rhythm and he goes, oh, but the Duracell thing, Duracell, I go on and on and on and on and on.
Oh,
It's
God, it's so good.
It's absolutely amazing. So I've got some of the recordings, like I said, so I'm gonna have to bounce some of those down so you can have a listen to those, because they are
100%.
amazing. So just to finish off the DJs a bit, Sedders, Mr. Seduction, as we said, legendary producer.
And again,
DJ.
he had us in the studio, didn't he, for a release we had on Impact?
Well, funny enough, on that other podcast we did, and I got asked what was the tracks you least like doing, it was those ones, but simply because I wasn't involved.
Yeah.
Because it was basically you and John were doing it, and
Yeah.
I was sitting there watching like a numpty making the tea. But yeah, his sound was second to none.
It was
And,
it was so good, so clean.
And Mr. Scott Brown, absolute flipping lunatic.
What a ledge.
Well, the funny thing is, if we're ever DJing with Scott, is another one. Him and Junior together talk about putting unpredictable and unpredictable together. normally ended up in complete carnage. And I remember in Ireland once getting up one morning and there was ironing boards down the corridor and all sorts of stuff had been going on, and them two had gone out together. I'm not quite sure what had entailed or ensued on that night out, but Scott was most certainly. Remember when he come to Clacton?
Yes, I do.
And that we was having RDs. Remember the RDs, the real deals?
Yeah, real deals.
Real deals at my house, which was literally just vodka and 7-Up, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the real deal.
It was a real deal. But I said, I've got to introduce you to these RDs, Scott. And he'd come around the house and like I'd literally get the vodka, pour it in, and then neatly pour in the 7-Up and then stir it around with a bit of lime. And there's your RD. He found it amazing. He said, he said, hey man, these are amazing.
It's not Buckfast, but it's all right.
And then I'm going to finish on the 2 Vs for the DJs, Mr. Vinyl Groover and Mr. Vibes, because both have been a major part of the scene through the years that we've been involved with. Both really good guys. I remember Scott had talking about having a hard time when you were younger, being away and stuff like that. I remember Scott had really quite a hard time in Australia the first time we went.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And he struggled as well being away.
Yeah.
But you kind of forget he'd have been probably same age as you were.
I think he was same age as me, yeah.
Yeah. Just probably still in his teens, or just out of his teens.
Yeah. And like I said before, it kind of it came very quickly. You know, it went from nothing to suddenly you go into Australia for 3 weeks and things that you'd never done before. With a lot of guys who were older as well, because I know it was only like a 5-year gap, but at that point it was quite a difference with Jeff, Supreme and people like that. So there was, and I do remember Vinyl Groover being much like me, a bit of a homeboy.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't often get to speak to Scott now. Sometimes see him out, but he's just still the same down to earth. I mean, he's one of those guys. Nothing's ever gone to his head at all, does it?
No. Do you know what would be awesome? It'd be like like a school reunion, like having a reunion with everyone, just like not to DJ or anything. Literally,
just to have
just to reminisce, just have a get together.
I am going to take that on board and
take that
sort
on board.
that out. I'm going to have
that would be pretty.
I
awesome.
mean, I'm going to speak to your agent and see when we can get you, because
actually
he'll probably want to come along anyway.
Yeah,
so
he'll make it happen,
because Lee knows everyone as well as we do anyway. But definitely going to make that happen.
That would be really cool.
Really cool. And of course, Shane Vibesy.
Who can forget?
Who can forget Uncle Vibes?
Yeah.
I mean,
my best memory of Vibes, alongside his music, obviously, again, one of those tracks that I used to play as a resident and we used to play was Music So Wonderful, which I didn't know him at that point, but what an absolute tune, and still is to this day, Vibes and Wish Doctor. But my overwhelming memory of Vibes was that Ibiza trip you were talking about, where we all went to Ibiza. And I remember we'd gone out for something to eat, and then it was time to go up to the rooms and get changed and then come back down, and we were all going out to one of the clubs. And we came down and Vibes had a pair of jeans on and then nothing else on but a leather waistcoat. But at that point he had his long blonde curly hair, a gold chain on, and also it was at that point where we were all wearing, God knows why we were doing it, but we all had those big chunky gold bracelets.
And a gold bracelet, a Calibra, and a sovereign, I think.
It was the DJ thing, wasn't it? And it was like, the bigger the gold bracelet, the better you were doing.
And did Shane have the biggest gold bracelet?
It was Shane and Slippers, I think. Slipmat had the biggest ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a memory, coming downstairs, seeing Shane, thinking, look at it, what a ledge.
Shane will always say that the bigger the bracelet, the bigger the heart.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So that was a moment.
But always was and remains a bit of a ledge, because I mean he's just loved by everyone, isn't he? Mm-hmm. The funny, I mean, I don't know how he does it. I remember we was doing a back-to-back in Doncaster a few years back, and he said to me, how are you getting to Doncaster? I said, well, I'm driving. He goes, oh, do us a favour.
Pick me up.
You pick me up. Well, I said, what, in Plaistow? He went, no, I'll get to, I can't remember where I had to go to in the end. I think it's just the bottom of the A12, that just before you get on the M25. He goes, I'll get to the services, right? I said, okay, yeah, do that. So drove down there, picked him up, had a nice little chin wag and got up to Doncaster and on the way back. And all I'm thinking in my head is we're going to be getting back to sort of Plaistow Way around about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And where's he going to want to be dropped off? And he said, just drop me off at the bottom of the M11. It's now 5 o'clock, right? Driving down the M11 and he goes, oh no, I can't get hold of who I want to get. Can you go in like another few miles down the road? In the end, I pretty much end up in Plaistow. Literally, I'm like
Door-to-door service.
Door-to-door service. I think, thanks, Shane, but I still love him for it.
Brilliant.
But it's typical.
I'm
Shane.
sure you had some decent stories to listen to on the way there and
Yeah,
back.
it's always good. But I just can't believe how he gets around on bus most of the time now. He just gets coaches everywhere, which is kind of a nice way to go. I suppose you don't have to worry about the driving.
No.
Just jump on the bus. Costs about £1.99 to get anywhere in the country you want.
That's legendary. And what is it? He's only got a few years, then he can use his bus pass.
I don't think he's got that long, to be honest with you. You put all together on a... Maybe we could do that when we all get together. We'll all have our bus pass at that point and go on a little trip around London on the big... that big red
Yeah, I've
bus.
got a few years yet, so you don't drag me up there quite
I can
yet.
see a couple of greys there, rude boy.
There are a couple of greys, yeah, but we don't talk about them.
So let's have a quick discussion about the album because, and I keep calling it an album, it's not really an album, is it?
It's a collection of
It's a collection of...
the biggest tunes.
I'm glad you said that because I've already said the stuff we don't like isn't on there.
Exactly.
So it's a collection of the biggest tunes. It's going to be available in 2 box sets, okay, because we thought not everyone's going to want vinyl, but the people that want vinyl, we'll give them a proper piece of vinyl. So the vinyl box set is a 12-inch box set. It's going to have 6 pieces of vinyl in there with a total of 12 tracks on vinyl, including Sunshine. And if you go to forceandstyles.com, which will be live in the next day or so, or by the time you hear this may already be live, it'll have full details of all the tracks that are going to be on the vinyl. And then there's going to be a USB with that, which will have every other track that we've deemed okay to go on the box set, which totals at the moment around about 52, I think, 52 or 53.
And if you put that into perspective, if we did take 2 to 4 weeks to make a tune, that's quite a lot of hours gone into them tunes.
I will add, not every one of them is... I mean, there's obviously mixes of our stuff, but there wasn't that many. I think there's about 7 different mixes done. Mixes that we've done of other people's stuff. Just about got the licenses sorted out for everything, including now, I might as well discuss this now, even with Excel for On a Vagotip.
Nice.
So that's all sorted. So On a Vagotip's going to be on there. I'm just trying to get everything as much as possible on there as we can. There is various mixes of different tracks. So, for instance, original vinyl mixes of, say, Heart of Gold and Pretty Green Eyes, Field of Dreams, etc., had edited versions, which you probably hear us play out, or me play out now, which are slightly cut down, which were because they were from an American release of an album. And so literally got everything and put them all on there.
Different edits.
Different edits. Paradise and Dreams had 3 or 4 different mixes, etc., etc. But we tried to get everything on there. But one other lovely little piece of work, shall we call it, that's going in there is a 36-page book, hardback book, and in the 12-inch box set, it's a 12-inch book, which will cover a lot of the stories about how the tracks come about. Lots of lovely artwork by Mr. Stevie B, who's been designing for us since Day Dot.
Yeah, did all the design, all the UK dance designs.
Just about all the UK dance designs.
Yeah.
And Oscars, flyers and everything else. And if we're going to go old school, we might as well get the big guns out and get Stevie on the design.
Absolutely.
So the design's looking amazing. And there's lots of stories on there. Now, what we've done is there is the 7-inch box set as well. So for those that don't want or need the vinyl, you don't have to have the vinyl. There's going to be the 7-inch box set, which will look exactly the same, apart from being 5 inches smaller. So in there, we've done something slightly different with the USB, haven't we? So so basically the USB in the 7-inch box set, because that box set is based around the USB, we've got a die cut, which basically is cut out of rubber, nicely designed by Steve, an F&S USB.
Looks pretty awesome.
Which does look awesome. And that's kind of encased in foam, and that's got a 7-inch booklet in there as well. And the quality of these is just absolutely ridiculous. And so hopefully you'll think it's worth every penny. Are you buying one, Dale?
I will buy one.
Yeah, you have to have a free one.
I think I should.
Maybe.
I should add to the cause.
Well, there you go. Funny enough, I've had lots of people that have kind of asked me about it, and I said, "Yeah, we'll keep you one back." I said, "No, we'll pay." I was like, "Oh, lovely!
Oh, that's awesome.
That's nice." So they're obviously doing all right.
Yeah, because you haven't said the price yet.
No, I haven't said the price, because the reason I haven't said the price is because it's not 100% set in stone. Simply because we don't actually know the actual cost of making it yet, which we know is a lot of money because everything is premium. And actually, I'm going to add to this, which is quite important about this album. When we first started doing UK Dance and we started making the records and putting the records out ourselves, we used a company called Music Base, again, based in Hackney, I think. Were they based in Hackney?
Inside the M25.
Inside the M25, that will do. And we used to go down to a guy called Dave, who run Music Base. And Dave's a lovely guy and got on really well. And we used to go down there and have chats, and they make they're kind of a broker, really, weren't they? But in my pursuit of looking for someone to produce this box set, I was just randomly looking around at different companies that were making box sets and trying to figure out who was really good at this. And I found a company, and it turns out that Dave's a director of this company. So talk about keeping it.
That's a full circle.
That is a full circle. So talk about keeping it in the family.
Yeah.
It really is sort of bringing it back home again. So the intention is that the website is going to be live imminently. Now, we are on currently, because I'm going to have to say dates because we don't know when people are going to be listening to this. Is it March the 10th or 11th at the moment?
It is. I'm going to tell you what it is. It's the 11th today.
It is the 11th. So the intention is that the website's going to be live in the next week or two, just so people can sign up. We can get a nice little mailing list going, and we'll start doing marketing, release this podcast so people can maybe gain some interest, or maybe just not want to have the album at all after listening to this rubbish for like 2 hours. And then we will make the box sets available for pre-sale, because everything's going to have to be pre-sale because it is so damn expensive to make this stuff. So that will be the idea. So in the coming months, everything will be live and available to purchase, which we thought would never bloody happen.
But it is. It's finally getting there.
It is finally happening. It's just slightly ironic that it's after 30 years, because when we first started thinking about this, it was going to be 25 years, wasn't it?
And each year just kind of slipped away.
She's kind of slipped away. Yeah, it sounds like a song title there. But finally, it's going to be on the 30th year, which is kind of poetic,
That's
really.
pretty cool, isn't it?
So fingers crossed it will be what everyone is hoping for. The response has been really good so far, and hopefully no one will be disappointed and returning any.
I mean, the artwork looks fabulous. I mean, it's a cool collector's item, isn't it, of nostalgia, basically.
I think so. You're just given a good reason for it being a high price.
Just trying to add to it.
Excellent. Yeah, I think so. It's going to be... I think people are looking at it as a collector's item. I mean, none of the stuff's been out on digital.
No.
It's not available apart from a couple of bits. Nothing's available on Spotify. So I just think this is a nice way to reintroduce it into the world in a more modern format.
Absolutely.
So, well, Dale, been lovely catching up and chatting.
It's been a great reminisce.
It's been a great reminisce. Same time, same place next week? Or are you a bit busy?
I think we can fit it in.
Excellent. I'm down with that. I'll put it in the diary now. Cheers, Rubu.
See you soon.
See you later.
Do you remember? Now